That's a long time.
Ready? You okay over there? Sure. Good evening. Welcome to the town board agenda meeting, May 20th, 2027. It's supposed to be 25. Please rise and salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Councilman Morton,
Here.
Councilwoman McCray,
Here.
Councilman Hanlon,
Here.
Councilman Miles,
Here.
Supervisor Molino.
Here. All right, the first one we're going to bring up, we're going to switch a little. Your first, Jonathan Suka from Cedarwood Engineering. We're going to talk about a water grant.
All right, so I passed out some copies. I don't know if I have everybody up there, but the presentation will just go through brief, and then if anybody has any questions regarding the project or funding or where we're going, feel free to ask. I have time for questions at the end. So essentially, the first slide is we can go to the next one. The existing project scope. So originally, the main priority areas was rehabilitation of the existing 500,000 gallon concrete tank. And then also some water main replacement areas along Church Street, Lawrence Street, School Street, and Hill Street. It's just some antiquated infrastructure, consists of a combination of older water mains, galvanized lines that have significant tuberculation. I know Ron can attest all the repairs that have been needed over time and boil water advisories that have gone out, just replacing the issues. Also, Hill Street is shallow buried depth. Essentially, there's a lot of ledge in the area, and they have issues with essentially freezing, and that could be part of the breaks as well. So next slide. Existing project funding. So it's just given credit here. This was not through us, but I believe Tracy Clothier worked with the town and was successful in obtaining a DASNY Crest grant for $150,000. So essentially what that allows us to do is progress the design phase, all the pre-development work to complete plans and specifications to get this project ready for bidding. There's also a letter from Elise Stefanik, essentially for House appropriations funding. It's $1,784,000. The reason we have some red on there is just status unknown. I think everybody knows what's going on the federal government side. I believe it has to pass the budget. They have to incorporate it into the budget, and then it'll trickle down, and then you would be eligible. So it's not. We're unsure whether it's a lock or not at this stage. So that's the reason we're including it in the bottom for total grant range as far as 150,000. Or if you do get the commitment for the House appropriations funding moving forward, it would jump to, just under your 2 million, 1,934,000. So like we said before, the project need is just, again, antiquated infrastructure. There's been frequent breaks and repairs in the mains. There's reduced flow, low water pressures at certain times due to this, boil water orders, which is a health and safety concern. And then again, just infrastructure requirements for tank upgrades and rehabilitation. Go to the next one. We have been working on an Environmental Facilities Corporation. It's WIA, it's a Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant. Our first application was way back in June 23rd of 2017. So every year since we have been applying. I will say the town is fortunate in the manner of you don't have major water quality concerns, no hits, luckily, of emerging contaminants, things like that, these type of grants focus on. This is strictly aging infrastructure related concerns. That doesn't mean that funding is impossible. It's just a highly competitive grant. The longer you're you're out there, the better opportunity you have to get it. So we did do an engineering report update on November 22nd, 2021, which again, we have it there at this time. It's pretty much outdated. It'll have to be updated moving forward. And then we applied again for drinking water WIA grant and DWSRF loan. That's a drinking water state revolving fund loan that is essentially through EFC that'll supplement the grant. So again, a note on the existing funding, if appropriations funding comes through, I just want to make this known because your total existing grant, that's why it's in quotes, if it comes through, 1,934,000. So the remaining portion to finance, which the town would need a loan for, if you're capping it at the $2.5 million mark, is 566,000. With the way EFC grants work, you are eligible for the lesser of 60% or $5 million of the total project cost. So essentially, if the grant comes through, you are beyond that, so you would not be eligible for a WIA grant. We are recommending you do everything and you reapply this year as well so that you're prepared in the event and you have it come through. If you're successful, you can use it moving forward and make a determination on, you know, your final plan of finance and where you're going. So what we included as an update is, you know, these projects aren't necessarily static over time. We're taking the information provided by the town, you know, working with Ron and others. And if there's issues that arise in the system, essentially, we can take a look, evaluate it. You can incorporate them into the project. So what we were looking at is a potential phase 2 of the project, including Bay Road from, you know, the 9N intersection down to River Road, as shown in the, I know it's harder to see, but the green revision bubble, and also including Mill Street. So there's just some areas, again, it's aging infrastructure. We believe it's a concrete road bed over on Bay Road. And then also there's possible lead goosenecks that, you know, may need to be replaced. And if you're doing the services and tearing everything up with the concrete road bed, you're better off doing a full replacement. So going into the next steps for the 2025 Water Infrastructure Improvement Act application steps. So we're including this today because we're assuming we'll have future discussions with the town as we plan and move this project along. But essentially, if you're updating the project budget, because the last time the engineering report was updated was 2021, capital costs obviously have not gone down since then. So the way this typically works is if you're awarded funding, you know, you have to have everything in line as you move forward. So the environmentals have to be completed, the engineering report, a bond resolution capping the overall project cost, and you're basically, if awarded, trying to make that project cost work. So if you remove something from the scope, your options are either remove it from the scope moving forward once you get into construction and you have bid pricing to move it along, or, you know, take out additional loan to cover the added costs. So what we believe is basically come up with updated costs, since we have the DASNY grant to cover the engineering and design services, which I'll get into a little later on, that'll allow us to strengthen our engineering report. You know, we can add additional items, especially for the phase 2 potential hydrant testing for fire flow testing to determine if you meet your state insurance requirements for necessary fire flow. That'll, you know, give you the ability to promote development in the area. And again, there's some also unknowns with, it changes monthly, I'd say, with the regulations. So EPA is coming down the line with additional, you know, lead and copper regulations. Lead goosenecks is written in to be a part of it moving forward where it currently isn't. So if that comes down the line, that'll be something where you would like to, we would recommend planning as early as possible and getting this out there, because if you're updating the engineering report, even if you're not successful in this grant, you can use it for other applications moving forward and have a basis behind it. So again, environmental review would have to be completed and then an updated bond resolution. So if you increase your cost beyond the prior project of $2.5 million, whether or not you include phase 2, you'd have to do an updated bond resolution where you're essentially, you know, working with your bond counsel and utilizing the engineering report for the basis behind that. The application period is not yet announced for 2025. So, you know, we just recommend, again, starting the process as soon as possible because these do take time. So moving forward, if you're incorporating the updated area, we have to update environmentals, the State Environmental Quality Review Act for the project scope. If we are including phase 2, and go through that process. With this, it's likely going to be treated as a type 1 action. So what that means is it'll take at a minimum 2 board meetings to get through, and you'd have to do coordinated review with the involved agencies. And again, your council bond resolution that's required for the application does take time. So we'd want to have the engineering report done as well.
What was the application period last year for that?
It's typically in the summer. My memory is failing me, but usually it's somewhere like July, August time. Sometimes they change. So it just has not been announced yet. Basically, they'll just open it and it'll be notified on their website. And, we do keep track of it, and we'll get emails and let the town know when it opens. But usually it's a mad dash and they give you, a couple months to get it done. So if you don't start before it's announced, it's tough to get it done in time with the environmentals and anything else you're potentially adding to the project.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we go on. Are we still eligible if that housing funding doesn't go through?
Yes. Yeah, you would be
For the
eligible.
WIA,
Huh?
for the WIA
Yes.
funding?
Yeah, you're saying if it does go through or
Well, if it
doesn't?
doesn't, because you said it might not.
Yes, if it doesn't go through, you're still eligible. So we aren't technically including that in your application as a plan of finance because you do not have a grant agreement and you do not have the funds yet. So we're treating it as you don't have the grant.
Okay.
You have a letter essentially from Elise Stefanik, correct me if I'm wrong, and it has to go through the federal process and trickle down for you to obtain the money and essentially have a grant agreement and funding in place for it. So
That
that's
still puts us in the ballpark.
yeah, absolutely. Because all you currently have on right now is the 150,000, which will allow you to progress with your soft costs, essentially the engineering items where you can do, the initial report is a conceptual level report where we try to estimate high, but again, it is old where we want to update it. So what we recommend doing as soon as possible, which we're making calls to get updated pricing on, is soil boring so that we can do subsurface investigation.
Yeah.
That way, especially for like Hill Street area where we know there's ledge, we can start to delineate it, because once we delineate it, we can have a true estimated capital cost on, what it's going to take to install this, because we also have to install the services up to the property boundary. So rock removal is very expensive. We want to minimize it where possible, and things like that. And then the other thing we are doing is, while we're going through, we're being proactive. So we're using that 150,000 for the engineering side, where when we utilize sub-consultants, so we'll sub out the surveying work, and we will typically use like Dara Land Surveying for a certified WBE, so that we can hit that goal. So if you get EFC funding, you're covered with the requirements. We've done plenty of projects in the past, so we try to hit those requirements on the front end so that we aren't denied a waiver later on. So you're guaranteed the money essentially. And the same thing with subsurface investigation. We'll utilize a certified geotechnical engineering firm like ATL or others that, again, they're WBE as well, just to help fulfill some of those requirements.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So again, I just have a couple bullets here for other potential funding sources. So the reason we're saying be strategic is every grant, whether you know it or not, has strings attached to it and project implications, whether they're on the front end or the back end, and what it does to the project budget. So, there's diminishing returns if WIA is awarded. That we're not saying we're not discouraging you from applying to anything else, because we recommend, apply to as much as you can with what you're eligible for, but it would be decreased essentially. So say if you use the WIA and you get another source of financing coming in, they do look at it on the back end and they can subtract out, because it's 60% of your eligible project costs. So it can be deducted. The same thing, you need to evaluate other items that may be grouped in with the grants. So NEPA review, which is essentially like the environmental review process for the state, is seeker, federal requirements, trip in NEPA review, which again is just a different type of review. It's not the end of the world. You just have to do it on the front end and make sure you're covered. And there may be other federal requirements that are tripped into it. We know we're going to comply with EFC's requirements, American Iron and Steel, and things of that nature. But if you use rural development funding, there's the BABA, the Buy America, Build America requirements and everything else. So again, possible options, USDA rural development. There's some different report requirements and environmentals. What we intend to do moving forward is essentially update our engineering report And the latest EFC template is pretty similar to rural developments. So we would recommend just modifying it so you're covered in that in case WIA doesn't come through and you want to be eligible for rural development funding. You know, typically you can get you know, a smaller grant from them. It's not anything usually that compares to the 60% that WIA offers. And then you can get a longer interest, like a 38-year loan versus a 30-year loan. So it doesn't really change too much other than lower your debt service because you're extending the loan out over time. Another option, again, is community development block grant. And again, there is an income survey required. So we recommend moving forward, we can help facilitate and set up conference calls with the appropriate regional contacts, just to ensure that we can determine if we qualify or not, because based off the online MHI for the median household incomes, I don't believe we qualify off their mapper. So what's typically required is an income survey. So with that, you have to knock on doors, get a certain amount of participation. And, you know, there's again, other firms that we recommend unless you have any in-house that, you know, do that, because with CDBG, you have to prove that at least 70% of the project funds go to benefit low to moderate income households, essentially. Same thing, we list some others, ESD, Empire State Development for economic development. Northern Borders also offers some smaller, I'm not saying extremely small grants, but usually in the $500,000 to $750,000 window. There's some other options, which I know in the past we've tried before, but again, it doesn't hurt to move things along as the scope changes. Just Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board has assisted in the past with some other municipalities we worked with, and the same thing with Warren County. It's just a joint effort, you know, to essentially help fund the project and where we go from here. Next slide. So summary, again, just in brief, the DASNY CREST grant to help move forward with the soft costs and engineering, $150,000 House appropriations funding, which is unknown at this stage, is a $1,784,000. So moving forward, our recommendation, obviously it's a board decision, but we recommend reapplying for WIA in 2025. Updating environmental review, authorizing resolutions from the town. And if we increase beyond that $2.5 million mark, again, the additional bond resolution will have to be completed. And to consider as well, what we highlighted in there in the prior screenshot with the green revision bubble of the considering adding phase 2 area, because the earlier you do that, you may be able to use it to, again, potentially get some other sources of funding. And if we move forward into the design phase, you know, we can take a look at it and see what currently exists for fire flow in the area and other known issues. Again, anything like lead goosenecks that could help scoring issues with EFC and other grants moving forward. So what we have on the right-hand side is next steps for engineering. So it's just, again, a board authorization to commence design phase services. So we're being proactive on our end to making some calls and getting updated costs, again, for surveying, soil borings. We're looking into, on the tank end, a cost just for a structural evaluation. So we've had, or the town has had historically, I believe Atlantic Underwater Solutions that does inspections of the inside and exterior of the tank. The one other thing we recommend is doing a full-on structural evaluation. So typically we'll reach out to see if they offer it, but we do know some other firms that specialize in concrete tank construction and inspection that do offer it. We just want to make sure moving forward, we have a conceptual recommendation from the initial report based on the visual observation. We like to go one step further and make sure that the tank is in good structural condition to be a candidate for that evaluation, because these costs, it is expensive to rehabilitate a tank. You do have to typically take it offline as you do it, which again does increase the cost of construction. So we just want to make sure you're not throwing money at something that, you know, that a rehabilitation that could fail. So that would be our recommendation to group into it. And again, hydrant testing. And then we'll take the remainder of that, update the engineering report, capital cost estimates. With each evaluated alternative, we evaluate the operation and maintenance and the life cycle costs. It's not just capital costs that are evaluated, it's long-term impacts to the town to make an educated decision. And again, we can come in and give updates to the board and to the public as we move forward. And then we also, depending on the final scope, whether we're including phase 2 or not, we can update the debt service calculations to bring them up to speed and just make sure that there's you know, notification to the public and the town knows essentially what you're getting into. And usually we break it out a multitude of scenarios with no funding, your best case funding option, and then a middle scenario if you get partial funding. The last slide is essentially just questions. So I know I threw a lot out there with some acronyms, but feel free to ask any questions.
Will you check with the tank evaluation? We do have a company that keeps an eye on it
Yep.
and make sure they're still, I think they're pretty much up to date. I haven't heard much from them in the last 6 months.
Yeah, Atlantic.
Yeah.
I think, I know you've used Atlantic, and I can give them a follow-up call as well.
Give them a follow-up.
Yeah,
and
'cause
see
they-
set with that.
Yep, and they typically do. I did get an updated report. I believe you've done it last in 2023. So technically, you're covered on inspections as far as what the typical requirements from DOH are is every 5 years, you'll have to do an inspection. So you're covered on that. And our recommendation is just go one step further is just a true structural evaluation. Just it goes beyond a visual. They can do some testing, just make sure any areas where you're observing potential spalling, you can dive into that, see the structural components, and just make sure that you're not blindly going in and throwing money at a rehabilitation that, may not be suitable. So it's just one added step. And, we're going to look at getting some costs and including that within the 150,000 essentially that you do have, just to be proactive again on the front end. Any other question?
Can you throw a dart at a board as to what it'll cost to reapply for the WIA?
So what we are planning to do, if the board authorizes it, is basically take the 150,000. We're comfortable, we have to wait and get updated numbers for surveying for the soil borings and make sure we're comfortable on that end, see if we can throw the tank inspection into it. But essentially, we were going to update the engineering report, update the plans and specifications, all as part of that. So we wanted to group that all in essentially so that that could be utilized for updated WIA application, because
It's all the same stuff.
yeah, it's all the same stuff. And there'll be some other costs that you'll have to evaluate essentially with bond counsel, and see if we can work that in there as well, just to cover that cost. Because if you're going to group, whether or not you group phase 2 in, if you go beyond that $2.5 million, you'll have to update the bond resolution essentially. So it's just a consideration. Ron knows that area of, the main phase 1 that we're looking to replace. We want to ensure that, whatever we're coming up with is an accurate estimate with some, a decent amount of contingency in it to ensure we can get through construction and cover those costs. So I just recommend as we move forward, we'll take a look at that.
I got 2 questions under next steps.
Yes.
Contract. We'll have to put together a contract. Do you typically draft?
Yeah, we have a contract we can send over and you can take a look at. We do an annual, just a general engineering contract, but typically for WIA, they want a project specific contract. So what we can do is.
I was talking about the Gasney.
Yeah, and we can write an updated engineering agreement essentially where it just covers the DASNY amount, and the remainder, once you get into construction, would be future to be authorized under an amendment or a separate contract.
And then my second question is, what would the actual deliverables be? Kind of summarizing the last right-hand column.
Yeah.
For the 150,000.
So our deliverables, the big one would be full plans and specifications that we would.
Checks off my first 2 on the list.
Yeah, those are the biggest ones, because that would be able, what we plan to do under this is not only just provide them to the town, but also submit them to obtain approvals. So they would go into regulatory agencies to obtain approvals. Essentially, DOH, you have to do a Form 348 for modification of public water supply. So we want to get through that process. And that also assists you to show project readiness as you're applying for these other grants. On other deliverables on top of that would be essentially an updated engineering report that could be utilized for the WIA grant application.
Would you typically also include, I'll call it grant administration?
Yeah, we can. So as far as what's needed with the DASNY grant on that end, I don't think there'd really be too much that would be required. So we can absolutely assist in that. And then what we do is this cost wouldn't cover construction. So what we would recommend is once you get if you're successful with the WIA grant and you obtain the 60%, then you could essentially move forward. You would bid the project, get a contractor, award it, and then you'd move forward with the construction services, where during that, we typically do recommend like a grant administrator or fiscal coordinator on top of us, because they can help handle some of those major items that are, becomes a more intensive workload, as far as submitting, pay applications for disbursement on behalf of the town, unless, you have somebody internally that is competent in doing it. It's not extremely difficult, but there's a process you have to follow. There's a timeline associated with it.
I think we'd want that even
Yeah.
for the $150,000 grant.
Yeah, and
It's just, there's nobody here.
yeah, and we can help out we anticipate a much lower level lift with the 150,000 for the soft costs on that versus what's needed day to day throughout construction.
What would you guys do, monthly billing or?
With that, we would just include it in our typical cost. So what we try to come up with is a lump sum cost where we'd have, we're planning to group in, our sub-consultants. So we would plan to hit our MWBE goals for EFC, and we would group in our surveying, our geotechnical work, and if we can, the tank structural inspection as well. And then we'd have design phase tasks for it, and then deliverables at each stage. And we typically put that in agreement.
Can we get that agreement soon or?
Yeah. I'd say our next board meeting, we can put something together and scope it. And then the only thing I'd bring up moving forward is to make a decision. We're happy to come back and present, as much as that's needed as this goes along, but make a determination as a board moving forward if we want to group in that phase 2 area or not into this. So I don't think you lose too much. I want to be transparent in saying that 150,000 will only get you so far. I don't think we'll be able to do subsurface, soil borings and a survey for that area. We're treating that as more of adding that into the engineering report with a conceptual level estimate. So you can move forward with grant scoping, and we'll keep the contingency higher. Typically at, this time you keep them 30% if you're conceptual level. And then once we have the plans and specs on the phase 1 area, we call it, we can really hone in on that construction number, because we're much more confident after soil borings, once we delineate rock and get rid of a lot of the a majority of the unforeseens. There's always unforeseens with buried infrastructure, but.
I know we talked about this when it was just the three of us.
Yeah.
How much impact the engineering data will have on future grant applications.
Yeah.
I can't speak from a lot, but for that playground, it seemed like we were successful on that almost immediately because we had all the plans, specs all ready to go.
Yeah, project
Makes
readiness.
us look better.
Project readiness is a big part of scoring, with the $150,000 grant allowing you to move forward. That's a different ball game this year with a reapplication into WIA. You're saying, okay, the town is moving forward with engineering design. We'll put some milestone dates together. We plan to have full plans and specifications ready at this date. And then upon the receipt of funding, you can essentially bid the project out and move into construction.
Questions? A lot to absorb.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot to absorb.
And like I said, I'm happy as we move forward, we can come back and give you additional information, project scoping, and
I do have one question, was like in the recovery phase after the project for like a residence lawn repair, any curbs, sidewalks, is that all factored into that?
yes, yep. So typically with this type of funding, just to clarify, with a water service, there's usually a curb stop that is at or near, not always, but the property boundary. So that's typically the limits of construction with a funding like this. So, we would have temporary easements because obviously to connect at the right of way, you might, disturb a little bit of the, homeowner property or commercial property. So as part of the contract documents, as we write them in, we have a very large technical specification document that we can hold the contractors to once you bid. So they're required to do a full restoration of any and all areas disturbed. The other thing we do is prior to construction, immediately before, we take pre-construction photographs. We document all that. So that way you have it in case there is a discrepancy, say a homeowner saying, oh, it used to be like this, or you caused an issue. Now I have a grading issue because of final paving. You have those photos to look back on and essentially prove it.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have.
All right, just keep us up, get us all the paperwork.
Yeah,
So the ball's in your court.
yeah, yep. I'll come back with that. And then what I may do is just maybe get the environmental review process going. We've been proactive and started the updated seeker review. So whether you include phase 2 or not, I recommend grouping it in. And that way we can start that process just in case if we as announced, we're eligible to, move that ball forward. So I can start that process for the next board meeting too.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Tom Reed. Tom's gonna have a discussion on the Medicare cuts.
Yeah, the federal government now is, as was mentioned, in session to take a look at future plans, and part of the plan is looking at cuts to some of the programs, one of them being Medicaid. And the reason why I wanted to chat with you for a few minutes is a coalition has been started by Dr. John Ruggie, who started Hudson Headwaters, to address the needs of the District 21 and the 15 counties within it. They had a press conference, 2 press conferences last Wednesday, one in Albany and one in Lake George. I think you can pick them up on either Facebook or YouTube. You'll see me on it. What we're trying to do is make people aware of what the cuts could mean to us. And in Lake Luzerne, it could be significant. And I want to go through some numbers that we've developed. Now in your handout, there's 2 things. One of them is statistics from the 15 counties. And that's a sheet that talks about how much of Medicaid is under the Medicaid standard versus Medicaid ACA. Now, just so we know, Medicaid really has 2 parts. The first part came out in the 60s, and the second part came out under the Obama administration. That's called the Affordable Care Act. In our area, in Warren County, it's about 52% of the people are under what we'll call old Medicaid, and 48% are under the new Medicaid and new ACA. And we try to break that down, what the meaning of the new is and how those dollars are spent. And pretty much the cuts that they're looking at are under the ACA Medicaid. Okay, so this coalition is tasked with visiting all of the counties and all the towns within the counties for people like me to come and talk to you about the situations here at home. So these statistics were developed that I'm going to be talking about from the data from the Medicaid that came from the Kaiser Foundation, and the population data came from the census, the 2023 census. Okay, so I'll just go down through this for a second. Our median age is 50.8 in the town of Lake Luzerne. New York State population is 39.6. So you can see we're an aging population. Our median household income is $48,992. Warren County's is $78,239. So you can see that we're at the lower level of income in our community. And that shows up as 20.3% of our population is below the poverty line. Warren County's is 9.1, just so we compare to something. And by the way, if you look at the press conference, we were talking about Warren County statistics on that. Warren County has about, this is a typo here, it's 48% under Medicaid ACA. We're probably higher here. I can't get the statistic for the town, but because of our poverty and our income level, we're probably higher than that. Talked about the coalition. So what I'd like to do is we kind of know what our situation is here in terms of the our population, but there's another whole side to it, and that is our Medicaid population. Our recipients, for a lot of them, actually work in the town and in the community. And we want to express the value that they bring to us, not just as overhead, as an expense, but as an asset to the community. And that's what we're doing down below. We have 3,082 people in town. If you take 20% of the poverty level, that's about 616 people. We have 34%. These numbers are in the census information. We have 34% under 19. That leaves 407 adults. At approximately 75% of those are in households. So we have 305 households. About 50% are estimated to be on the ACA Medicaid, which puts 152 households on Medicaid ACA. AFI is the average family income, and you can take a look at the average family income as being here. It's about a half of the median income at the poverty level. Now, statistics show that the poor people really can't save any money. They spend every cent that they make. And they typically spend it in their community because they can't get outside the community. They don't take vacations and spend on luxury items. So it's spent within the community. If you do the math, that's $3.8 million that is spent in the community by families here on receiving benefits. So there's an economic generator that's being produced here by the recipients of Medicaid. So we need to look at these people as being an investment. Medicaid's an investment here. It's investing in these people so that they can help out in the community, as well as Medicaid helping them with their medical problems. And that's the message that sometimes gets overlooked. Now, what the coalition would ask of you people that are on the board is to get in touch with your Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Chuck Schumer, and Kristen Gillibrand. Just send off a note saying that you're concerned about the Medicaid population in our community. Our community has a higher Medicaid population than most, and we value the recipients of Medicaid in our community, and we want to protect them. The way to protect them is to cut the benefits as little as possible. And so that's all I've got to say, unless you have some questions.
I have a question. The organization, is this a formed organization?
Yeah.
Do you have does it receive funding from anybody outside, or is it personal funding by the organization?
The funding is started. I am not in charge of funding, so I can't really talk
Is this in
about it.
reference to the was it formed in reference to the cuts by Doge, the Doge team in the federal government?
Well,
That they cut, so that's
well,
how
the
it's
Doge
coming down.
thing had, I'm sure the
Medicaid,
Doge has
yeah.
some influence
do-
over it.
Got a lot to do with it.
But this is really there's a budget committee.
Mhm.
And the budget committee is tasked with increasing spending in certain areas and decreasing spending in other areas in
Yes.
order to come out of the
Bigger than-
budget, like
yeah, yearly
we do
budget,
here,
yes.
like we do here.
Yep.
Some of the things that they want to pay for, they need cuts in order to do that. And they also forecast those types of things in the budget that basically can't change. Like, for example, this
Mhm.
program, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, those three programs take up about half of the $7 trillion, $6 to $7 trillion federal
A lot of
budget.
money.
So it's a little over $3 trillion in those. The biggest piece of it is Social Security. I think that's about 1.3.
That's a lot of million. What they say they found
It's
Medicaid,
trillions.
Medicare, they found like $27 trillion or some waste going overseas. The people didn't have Social Security numbers. That's the waste they're talking about. And this is the fallout from that we're dealing with, which is unfortunate for you and in your concerns for people. I mean, it's a serious concern for people. Yeah.
Well, fraud and abuse have been documented pretty well, so you can get the statistics and.
Yeah, Doge.gov, they got it right there, all line item by line item. I check on that daily.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
do that, and The abuse comes in a couple of different ways. Some of it is intentional and some of
It's government.
well, it's, it's playing.
I wouldn't say it in yard. I waste money every day.
Essentially, and I'm not an expert at that, so I mean, I don't want to be for something that I can't.
Sidebar discussion.
But they do address it. For example, in 2023, there was, I think, 8%, the number was that they felt was fraud and abuse in the Medicare system, and they were able to cut it down by paying attention to about 5%. So they are paying attention to.
Oh, now they are.
Yeah. Well, over the last few years,
Seems like
they've
it.
been spending
Thank
more
God,
time
right?
on it. But and it's not an administrative cost. If the whole social security system is running less than 1% of the cost, which is very efficient when you look at it. The health systems are a little more expensive because of the claims that they have to process. So both Medicare and Medicaid have, you know, a claims processing piece of it. And there is some efficiencies they can gain there also. So they're looking at like artificial intelligence. What can that do to help make things more efficient? And they should as well. They should. Technology should be part of it. But cutting back programs where people can essentially be hurt, and this is Medicaid that they're talking about specifically.
I'm sure, I mean, hopefully they're not using this politically, you know, like they just doing that, they take it out politically on.
It goes on both sides. There's a lot of pushback on some of the Republican. See, the Republican Party is basically in charge of putting this part of the budget together, and they're the committee that just turned it over to be reviewed by more people in Congress. And they're the ones that have had trouble in their own side of the house.
Both sides have had trouble inside the house.
Republicans have people in their constituencies, and Elise has got a ton of people on Medicaid. What we need to do is give her enough information and enough of a nudge to say, hey, listen, we're gonna be really affected by any change that is made to Medicaid because of our population here. 1 out of 5 people, you know, in our school district, you can see the results in the school district. 47% of the families in our school district receive some kind of aid. That's half the kids, half the families here. So that's a lot. We need to pay attention to these people. And so I'm asking that each of you pick up a pen, just write a quick note. You know, in our community, we have a lot of people on Medicaid and we like to protect them. And at the bottom of the information that I gave you are their addresses. Of course, you know them better than I do. And just try to protect our population, our poorest population.
Any questions?
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Tom.
thank you.
Taylor? Tyler Cunningham? Sorry.
So just coming to talk about a few buildings on Main Street, I believe it's 711 Main Street. So got a letter about that they need to be remedied or demolished. One of the buildings I think is viable. I'm not sure if it's 7 or 11, but the other one that it was called the Mantar Building. I do agree that that needs to come down, and I've reached out to an excavation firm that could start demolishing with the correct permits, paperwork. As early as mid-June. They're waiting for the wet season to come through. And then they said that that would save me a lot on the dumpage fees to move it out of Lake Luzerne. As far as for the condition of the lawn, there's Green Acres. They'll come in next week and clean up the lawn.
Yeah,
So
grass
those
is
are
growing
steps.
again. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are steps that I'm trying to take to remedy the situation.
I'm sorry, do you have any plans for the other building? I mean, not to, comment on that. It's just, I'm just asking, but.
I don't, obviously, you know, I make it appear.
The rafting companies there for years. They had them in there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be open to set it up as a rental. that's something I'd consider. I don't have a plan right now to start operation there.
Be exciting.
Yeah.
Something exciting, see something happen there. It'd be
I
great.
ran it for 4 years when I was in college. It was a great job.
A lot of my friends work there. Oh, yeah. It'd be good to see you do something again.
So you're all planning on the white building.
I think it's,
It's gotta come down.
that should have been taken down 20 years ago, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Well, it's been condemned for 32 years.
Well, yeah, I might be a little short.
That's the one that's getting to it now. And even the red building's really not, it needs a little, some 10, 11 gear,
Yes, I agree.
you know. And especially now the grass is growing, people complain about that, so.
Yep.
But I'm glad that he can take the white building down.
Well, if you decide to
You
tear
have-
down
yeah.
that white building, you're
Good.
going to need permits both from the
Yeah.
town and the county for that.
Yeah, and
Ours is kind of a formality, but you do have to get a demolition permit through Warren County.
I was sort of hoping if there's any paperwork I could take with me to.
Sure, we'll work with you on, to make sure you get all the access you need to.
Thank you.
Application packet.
We'll get you some paperwork before.
And if there's
Yeah,
any other,
Tucker's going to get you the application packet.
okay, and if there's any other concerns I can do in the short term, that the board would appreciate, I'm open.
Even the red building's starting to deteriorate a lot.
Yeah,
And we get a lot of complaints about cats on the building and.
yeah, and so I think first and foremost, I need to get it more secure. You don't want people or kids climbing in.
Yeah, I'll admit to something right now. One of my offspring was caught in there
Really?
years ago, at that party back in there.
Oh.
All the cops when I got a bunch of the kids in there and I had to go sit in court with them and made them admit everything. It was no big deal. It was fine.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Lake Luzerne, 2002 to 2006.
Yeah, if it could be more secure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just keep any of that kids, you know what I mean, out of sight, out of mind. That's good.
To climb up and fall off a roof or, yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
good.
Right in town, like senior housing or something that might come in nice as a suggestion.
Yeah, I haven't. I would have to check the plumbing and there would have to be a significant amount of work.
Yeah.
To be done to it, to
But you
facilitate
can't
that.
have too much in there because.
Ledge kills the whole idea anyways.
Oh,
Yeah, ledge just kills that all right there.
That contains both the Warren County and our application.
Okay.
A lot of our stuff in there won't be quite as applicable, just because it's, again, we're running, so.
All right, so your plans to demolish, clean up, cut grass. Do we need anything else?
Do you have any plans for the old rafting company in terms of just repairing the outside so it's a little bit more presentable in town or?
Yeah, I just drove by it. It definitely could use a paint job. Pressure wash and paint. I haven't. My main focus was making sure they were secure and safe, and then. Second, work on the beautification of the red building. But I haven't contacted a painter or anything at this point.
all right.
Do we require any kind of formal response? Or is this,
Well, he's responding to your letter.
Yeah, it's up to you. The next step would be serving him with a criminal summons.
I don't think this suffices.
Or-
This suffices.
I mean, it's your choice. You are the ones that want.
I wanna go with, yeah.
I mean, maybe you could just send us an email. Saying
Well,
you're gonna do
Yeah,
this
that's
and
fine.
that.
That's fine. I'm good with that.
Email,
Since
This
we
is
put it
technically
on the
Karen's
record.
jurisdiction.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Karen. I'll sit back for a minute.
I'm just saying that by him being here and stating what his intentions are, he's put it on the public record
Yes,
Okay,
as to what he's.
that was my
going to
intention
do.
when I said that. I figured that was,
if you want me to follow up with email, I can do that as well.
well, I just want to thank you for coming and tell us what's going on.
yeah, we appreciate it.
It was on my mind. I reached back to the showcase excavation they're out at North Creek. And we had discussions in March and we had plans to do it and he just wanted to hold off with all the rain. He
Yeah.
thought it would save me a lot of money with just I'm not an excavator, so my terminology might not be correct, but the dumpage fees, I
Yep.
think is what it is, and the weight.
Everything determined on weight,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and then the timing would be, middle of June to later June, and I think when they get in there, they're pretty quick, and they'd be out by, I think early July. For the Mansard building, the white building.
That all right for you?
I don't care.
You don't care.
Up to the board.
All right, well, you're always possible now that summer's coming and a lot of people coming back. And they
Would
see,
that- My question would be, with that timeframe, maybe that's not ideal, or is that a good time frame for you?
I'll put it to you sooner the better.
Sooner the better, yeah. So, I think the quickest we could have something in motion would be middle to end of June.
Okay, that sounds reasonable, right?
I'm fine with it.
And to your point, it is wet. Everything's wet right now.
Yeah.
We've been getting a lot of rain, so to your point, that is true.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I would appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. I think the following before we do the vouchers is I'm looking to get transfer station stickers. The new gentleman up there is he spoke to me last week and he doesn't know everybody in town, so it's tough to say, are they Luzerne residents or not? So I think we're gonna move forward if the board approves. We don't have to really have a resolution, but to get transfer station tickets where we could put a license plate on it. And he could give them out. I don't wanna bother the town, one of the girls here. He can give them out and keep track of them. So if that's all right, we'll go move forward
Excuse
on
me.
it.
But we already
When they come in, we verify that they live here. There's no way for him to verify.
All right, so you want them to come here then?
It
to get the
sounds like it'd
stickers.
Be a bad idea.
Okay.
Because like I said, we verify their address and everything.
Do you have stickers?
We
No,
have stickers, but
we have
they
stu-
don't have that
No,
option.
no, we gotta get
right
new
now.
ones.
You got to order new stickers?
Yeah.
I like to make a stupid little tiny suggestion.
Go ahead.
Get stickers that go on the
Yeah, well,
inside,
we said that already.
Oh,
Yeah, we said that. If they're gonna go on the inside,
whether it takes them off.
yeah, and just have a license number on it.
I have a question for you. What if somebody borrows a truck to go to the dump?
What can I tell
I
you?
don't know. Because
Cheat
we-
code.
Something.
Well,
I'm saying like what?
some here all the time, if they want to come and get it, it's free, so there's no reason why we shouldn't give it. It's just gonna be one load. But they'll have it. Just make sure everybody has it, because we'll get a sign makeup. I felt we could say starting July 1st, they have to follow the sticker rules, so we can have them printed next week. And
Can we get that on the, our website quick? So people have,
yeah,
we get
we'll
that
get
real
it, we'll
quick.
get it on the website.
good fair notice, so they all
Yeah.
see it. They're gonna start coming Memorial weekend too, they'll see
Yeah.
it. It'll be good.
Yeah, because it's we're having a lot more problems than everybody really knows. It's people sneaking in there and
Oh, yeah.
people coming from other towns. So it makes it tough for him up there to really keep control. He doesn't know a lot of people, so he asked for this, and I think it's,
People in the town are really getting to know him, that you
Yeah,
use it.
yeah.
I've heard nothing but good about it.
we've had that for years, and then it was feathered into the sunset a little bit, and now it's back to, there's a lot more new people in town
Yeah.
that we should get them, they should have the sticker.
Do you plan on charging for brush team? I think we ought to because our surrounding towns do,
Yeah,
and we are a dumping ground.
yeah, we are. That's why we need the sticker.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why we're getting the sticker, because we don't know where these trucks are coming from.
I agree. I had multiple employees tell me, oh, that guy's from Stony Creek, this guy's
Yeah.
from Hadley,
Yeah.
multiple times.
But I think that's a good idea. I don't think you should have a small truck or a small trailer have to, but large truck full, get on scale, pay for it.
I think you need to charge period.
No,
And yeah, if they're bringing brush in from other towns,
no, we don't, well, that's why we need the stickers.
yes, agreed.
Should we
I
charge
agree.
them, let them get on the scale and charge them per pound? That's the
I
question.
would do that. I mean, I don't know.
If they have a sticker.
Yeah.
You're talking about for people that have a sticker,
Anybody,
could we charge?
right?
by the-
That's what we're thinking, right? Anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't charge some and not
We
the
gotta
other.
put a slow to them bringing this brush in.
What do we do with the
We're gonna
brush?
be paying Another 20 grand to have it ground up again.
15.
you know,
It was 15 last time.
15.
But we also have maybe,
Things don't go down, so it'll probably be
maybe
20.
we have somebody who wants to take all that mulch that's in there out of here, but they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
But fair, it's down on the ground, it's piled up, they come in with their trucks and out front end loader, we should give it to them for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. They come take it all the.
Let's work with the stickers first and once we get that, go ahead.
If somebody is bringing brush in, or like somebody out of town is doing a service for someone in town, I believe we have a form that they can sign saying who it is, and maybe we can figure out something on the sticker where it's only a temporary for that person, where we could put this sticker expires on such and such a date or something like that.
Mhm.
It's
Good
just a
idea.
thought to think about.
Good idea. Commercial, like a commercial sticker for
Well, that's,
commercial use.
you've heard me say that before. It's tough for me to see a big truckload of brush. Say, somebody on Pierpont hired a cut 'em to get the brush, then they charge them to get rid of it. Then they come down here and they don't pay for it here. So they're making money.
That stuff's supposed to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Nah, goes to our town
but I
dump.
think once we get the stickers, we can get that under control a little bit more.
Go for that.
All right.
You need a resolution or you don't?
I don't think we need to buy the stickers. We don't need a resolution. Huh?
Oh,
No, they're not a lot of money. I'm not saying tons of money.
You mean buying the stickers or
We can.
getting one for your?
Can we
No,
table that?
buying the-
I think it's under $5,000.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's under the procurement. All right, we'll get moving on that. Anything else on, we'll move into the resolutions, Lori, pay the bills.
resolution to pay the bills of the 9th abstract of 2025 as presented. General fund vouchers 4987 to 5004, $15,749.10. Highway vouchers 5005 to 5008, $24,092.15. SW1 Water District vouchers 5009 to 5011, $302.59, and SW2 Water District voucher 5012 for $30.
I make motion.
A second.
Motion made by Hanlon, seconded by McMahon. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none carried. Proposed resolution to appoint Pamela Pettis to the planning board to fill the unexpired term of Barbara Conway, whose term expires on 12/31/2027, and to advertise for an alternate to take Pamela's place as an alternate.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Niles, seconded by McMahon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none carried. And we're off to Karen.
All right, the next thing we have is a zoning officer, Karen Putney, discussion on Shaper Brook Estates.
Mary, do you want me to start this and you can finish it maybe?
However you want to do it, it's fine with me.
Okay, do you want to do it
I can do
in
both things.
opens? Go ahead, and I'll plug in if I need to.
Okay. So the person, here, I'm gonna give you a little packet. The person who owns lot 16 has come in front of the planning board to get a boundary line adjustment, which would encompass, the boundary line adjustment then will encompass this piece right here. So when Karen looked at the deeds and the boundary line adjustment and everything that went with it, the town currently uses this spot right here, which will be encompassed in the boundary line adjustment, as a turnaround. So they come up, they plow, they turn the plow around here, and they switch. The actual deeded turnaround
This is the actual.
is here on 14th.
Mhm.
It's now surveyed, we have it on a survey, and it shows that the actual turnaround is here on 14. So the problem with the boundary line adjustment is if this gets moved, and the person who owns this property decides they don't want the town turning around here anymore, they can prevent it.
Hmm.
And they can say, no, you are deeded a turnaround right here, and that's where I want you to turn around. So I have to know how important it is to the town, I think mostly Ron, that you have to turn around here. Cause before we give them their boundary line adjustment, we need to work something out. If you say to me, I need that turnaround.
You absolutely need that.
And it doesn't work here.
It does, but how are these homeowners feel?
Yeah, it's gonna be right in their front yard.
Yeah. Do they know? Do those homeowners know that this is
I have no idea if they know.
produced?
I don't think they do. It's my.
The plot thickens.
Where is it at with the planning board? They have a public hearing yet?
No,
He
we
won't
tabled it. The other paper that I gave you is this portion of the subdivision map that was filed with the county. And on lot 14, you will see that instead of a round turnaround,
Hmm.
they had like a T turnaround, sort of in the driveway type of thing. That's what was put on the original subdivision maps. But when the deed got done, the deed is this round turnaround that actually goes into this lot 14's front yard. So these two things didn't ever add up. The
Yeah,
deed,
the one that's written in handwriting says temporary.
right, because they were gonna go on to a phase 2 of more lots, and they've never done that, and now she does not intend, the owner. It doesn't seem as though she intends to do any more subdivision because she's doing this 2 boundary line adjustments really, but one with this person on lot 16 for quite a large area of what would have been part of phase 2. And she's giving another area way back here to another property owner, which would have been part of either phase 2 or phase 3. It does not seem as though she's going to move forward with any more subdivision in that area. That doesn't seem that.
Who currently owns, I know we've been through this. Who currently owns that turnaround spot?
Gina again.
Gene again.
Yeah, Gina again, and then it's Scott Ripley who's trying to
Who's
get
that?
back. She's a realtor in New York City.
I mean, so keep in mind, she at any point could also say you have to stop turning around.
Gina Gent,
Yes,
Gent.
Yes.
Gina,
I think she went to school. I think she went to school here.
GHINA, GINAGHENT.
Oh, Gent. I thought it
She owns 14 or 16.
No, she owns,
The back half of all.
she doesn't own either 14 or 16. She owns the remaining parts
Right.
that have not.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So the person that applied for the boundary line adjustment, who would then be in control of that turnaround area, has offered the town a revocable license, but that means he could tell the town at any point, you can't turn around this.
What is he buying part of the big chunk?
Well.
The person that owns the bigger parcel can already tell the town they can't do that, correct?
Okay, let me correct. However, we've been using this for so long, I think the town would have a good argument for adverse possession, road by use, any of those things, but keep in mind that takes litigation.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're trying to prevent that with this boundary line adjustment.
Where is the proposed boundary line adjustment? How much are they
Come up
proposing?
here,
On this,
get that.
yeah, on this paper that I gave you. This purple one in the orange color is what they are proposing to give to that, to sell to that lot 16 and make it all one large lot.
Oh, it's big.
Yes, it's very big.
They're doing that for a reason.
So I just need to know if the town wants to ensure that they can always use that turnaround, or if you say to me, we don't care as long as we can turn around somewhere. That's what I'm looking.
Well, what's Ron think? Ron, what do you say?
If we use this lap. The 14, we would have to plow in order us to pull out, pull up, and back in. We can't back in if there's 2 foot of snow, so.
So what you're telling me is you need the turnaround that you've been
I'd
using.
like to turn around that because then we wouldn't be piling a huge amount of snow on someone's front door.
Before I express my opinion, this thing shows what I would call a 3-point turnaround.
Correct.
Is that what's,
No, in the deed, there,
No.
in the actual
The
survey.
deed is this one with the actual,
okay, the deed turnaround, is that big enough for you, Ron?
What we're using now?
No,
No.
this
Oh.
one.
It goes into that.
And would that
Mhm.
solve the problem you just
If that were,
expressed concern about?
Yeah.
If we had to go to that driveway, like I said, we would be plowing in and. There could be 6-foot snowbanks in their driveway.
At their front.
That's what we would cause. So,
Even with the way it's deeded. In other words, it's not big enough.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's real close. It's like right in yard. See it right.
we can make it work. It would be
Yeah, there you go.
not very ideal because that driveway has to slope down.
Chaos.
Okay.
And once I pull in, I gotta back out. So the other part help or makes it a little easier for us.
keep in mind that we have a planning board meeting next week, Wednesday. We tabled this for now, and if we have to, we could table it again, but we do have a planning board meeting next Wednesday.
I have the information I need.
Does 14 know what's going on?
I don't think so.
I don't want to sound cold. But was 14 supposed to know what was going on when they purchased this property and look and see that there was a cul-de-sac in their front yard almost touching their house?
I'll bet you they never even knew.
That's where that confusion.
Because we've always turned around at the end of the blacktop.
That's where the confusion.
Yeah, but if it's in their deed,
It's not in their deed. It's in the deed that was given to the town dedicating the road to the town. It's in the town's road deed.
okay, so they possibly did not have knowledge. They must have had.
They,
I don't know if it's in 14's deed or not, but it was done by that deed that I sent to you.
I know on the East River Drive side, they had deed restrictions for parts of it.
This
not
is the
being built.
deed, Mary. That's the deed.
This is 14, this is 16, what's here?
that's the current parcel. 16 wants to move their boundary way up here.
But I go this is.
That's what she's. Might cost us.
Can you orient me, Tucker, where is East River Drive?
So this is, you're coming off of. So Hudson Heights is like up here, and then as you, East River Drive's coming off like this.
Over here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so this is Hudson Heights, and then you have the break off for
So Hudson Heights goes right
or
up.
Hudson
East
Heights is the
River.
lower one. Yeah, so East River Estates and then Hudson Heights. There's two roads. It's basically better on. This map. So here's East River Drive,
Okay,
or sorry, East River Drive, probably farther over here. But then you got these two. Out here, this is East River Drive, and then you got Hudson Heights, and then this is the other. I don't know the name of that one.
Schaefer Brook.
Shaper Brook, there we go. So Shaper Brook, Hudson Heights, and this is all East River Estates right here.
This is East River Drive.
Right.
I guess I'll offer an opinion, see if we can close out the discussion. I think we should use what we own. What we have a right to use.
Mary, do you need anything more from us? I mean, besides yes or no, or point and direction, is there anything you need before we make a decision on that?
I guess I need to know if I'm going back to the applicant and saying. You aren't getting your boundary line adjustment unless you give the town. Right away over this turnaround, or if I go back to them and say the town doesn't care.
I for one care.
I don't mean, that's not the right.
Okay.
For this, I'm sorry. Or if I say to them, the town can use the surveyed turnaround.
So we're saying, make a deal. We'll give you your adjustment, but give us a right of way to turn around.
I'm gonna say that.
Hurt to ask, right?
I
Didn't
would
hurt
say
that,
that it's
you know?
necessary to have the turnaround that the town has been using. On top of the fact that we probably have legal arguments that we own that piece of property.
I say. Try to fight. I like your opinion, but I say try to push it a little bit to keep what we have we're using. I should just
Yeah.
go that way a little bit, see if we can get it.
So that's.
Work with us.
Because this is a boundary line adjustment that they're asking for.
Correct.
That's this.
But because they want more, which I mean, hey, everyone wants more, and I get that. But to take somebody's entire front yard up to their stoop away because somebody else wants more. I think it's a little unreasonable. I'm not on the planning board, but that's my opinion. I think that is really an unreasonable request.
Well, we want to make sure that the planning board is acting legally and doing,
We could also ask for this piece to get cut out. Like he could have a boundary line adjustment like this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Could do that too.
I just wondered if they're buying.
It's going to be either this turnaround is necessary or it's not. If it's necessary, we have options on how we achieve that.
Cause we get one of the two things you said, cut that out, try to keep possession of it, or get the deed the other way. Cause if we let them use the other property. Yeah, you're right, but should you do it? It's gonna talk about kicking someone's apple cart over. You want to be in, we're gonna be busy. It's gonna be a
Yeah,
big,
because
dust up.
that's already an existing. And to be, you know.
It doesn't say we can't use it.
It's not a paved turnaround, it's just a turnaround that they've created by
No, it's
use.
saying this is already existing, like the house.
Right,
house-
exactly.
Yeah, it's gonna cause a. Although we may be right, you know, we should try to do the accommodating.
I don't see any harm in asking.
Keep everybody happy.
Right.
That's
Okay.
all I need, that's.
'Cause we- yeah.
all I need to know.
All right,
Do you have to have a legal reason to, do a boundary line adjustment?
So the decision has to be rational and based on substantial evidence. So
Existing turnaround would be both rational. And.
But they
based
counter,
on
once
evidence.
you already have one deeded to you.
Yeah.
and we
They can
don't
also come
want to
back at-
create a.
Yeah, that's right.
So use that one.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah,
turn walk away and laugh at you.
Right, off the basis that you're not giving us our turnaround that we want,
well,
because technically there's already one there.
I think you could because
Of it have being used.
and it's going to, part of the boundary line adjustment is character of the neighborhood, all that stuff. So you're certainly going to affect the character of the neighborhood if you're making this into a road.
Right.
I think there are a lot of reasons you could absolutely deny it because of this issue.
Okay.
And the substantial amount, it's a big
Yes,
substantial.
Took over some people.
I don't think a court would ever
He
find that to
already
be
owns this, I can't do.
No, that would be a big inconvenience for the people there. I can see it right now.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the lesser fight is to try to keep what we have.
Yeah.
That's the first, do no gain, no, don't do any harm. Just try to get in there and make everybody happy.
Okay.
Strong arm anybody.
Agreed.
I agree with that. Yeah, we should try the path of least resistance.
Easiest way. All right.
Eventually,
We'll
that
you
might be.
take
coming
care of
around.
that.
I have other,
More.
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Mary. I don't have anything further. That's all right.
That's not on the agenda, but we'll let you speak.
I do just want to let the board know that the Hazlet litigation is officially over.
What is- what is it?
The Hazlet versus the town of Lake Luzerne are officially over. Court signed the stipulation.
Thank you.
Do we get it? Laid out or no?
Yes, I should probably give you a copy of it. I will, yeah.
Okay. So we know when Ron knows what final happened.
A summary, like a.
And then there's one other thing I would like to discuss in executive session, and it's going to be about current litigation.
Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
Mary.
So we have 2 executive sessions.
Yes.
Would-
2 different reasons out.
Yeah, but could we do one first, then
We're gonna do them together.
together? Okay. All right, and I'll give you just 2 seconds I know you've been waiting to go, unless you can wait 2 weeks. All right, that's good. So we're moving to executive.
Hold on 1 second, Gene, 1 second. I got 2 things I gotta talk about. Before we go into executive session. One being the interview that we conducted with the grant writer. Let's discuss that.
Yeah.
So we had a meeting with Chris Belden for the town of Bolton. Prior to today, because Tracy Clothier is retiring. We need a person to handle the grants. We discussed kind of his hourly rate and what we would expect from him. He's not the only person that we can look at. There is another option in Robert J. Miller and Associates, who Corinth uses and has had great success. So I think everybody has the packet for Chris Belden. He dropped it off with everybody, so we should just, in my opinion, take a look at that. I'm gonna try to get a hold of him from Corinth so we can have another option and then figure out what we do with the next.
Put them on the next meeting.
Yeah. So there was that, and then the second thing was we discussed obviously the parking changes that we have a public hearing going on now, but we did not discuss raising the fine amount, which is currently stands at $50 per infraction. And we had talked about raising that up to $150 per infraction, so that it actually had teeth.
That's on the recommendation of DEC when we met with them.
Yeah, DEC had recommended that.
How many parking tickets we see in this town?
Actually, 250, I apologize, 250. So I believe, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we want to make any changes to an ordinance like that, we have to set a separate public hearing. Okay.
It'll be townwide.
That would be townwide, yeah.
We haven't parking tickets anymore, do we? Have a cop, haven't seen a cop write a parking ticket in this town since I was a kid.
Okay, first one.
I don't see, because they don't write parking tickets. Well, try that. Try that on somebody.
So,
They write them up there for us.
Yeah.
If they have some, right, because right now there's no law for them, plus there's no fine associated with the law. That doesn't exist.
You can't get rid of the homeless guy that lives on the side of the road either, but
Get it done.
no camping within 150 feet of moving water and Adirondacks. He's like 30 feet away.
yeah.
They won't stop
That's
him
my,
now.
that's my third thing, so I'll talk about that in a second.
Every day, he's my buddy.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Motion to set a public hearing. parking space.
Lori's gonna see, we might be able to stick it in the public hearing that you scheduled for last time, but I need time to check.
Okay, the amount's $250.
And then the last thing is, I know I've received a number of complaints about homeless on River Road. I did contact the sheriff's office. They didn't do much. The DEC ranger is out there. The person does have family in the town of Lake Luzerne. They gave him until tomorrow morning to get his car started because apparently it's dead.
It is dead because I saw him walking to the back of town, so I don't see that.
Tomorrow morning, they're gonna visit him again. Situation. I also wanted to ask Mary, this is becoming kind of a more prevalent issue, particularly on River Road, and we don't have current ordinances or anything like that to deal with homelessness. Is that something you can look into for us to see if there's any existing that other communities have, so we can kind of get ahead of this in future?
Right now we have is just DEC law, camping laws.
That's all, that's all we have right now. So, but I think we can do stuff at the town level. Cause like, this seems pretty ridiculous, but somebody can't stay in their camper on their own property on the side of their house, but there's under town ordinances, but you can stay in your car right now on the side of the road. So that doesn't make
as long as you move
a
it
ton of sense.
all over New York State. Whole state of New York. You can do that. New York City, they do it all. My brother works in New York City, it's art restoration. He said the common thing you're seeing now is they have a vehicle and they'll watch it, the police. There's ordinances, you can't let park there so long, and when the ordinance is up, they'll move it.
Yeah.
40 feet, stop, there you go.
I'd like to at least have Mary look into it to see if there's anything. we
How
can-
about what we discussed about no parking overnight at those 3 spots where these people are staying? We can get something on there with a sign, no parking overnight. And you got more
It's good.
light
Yeah.
to it. I got called out Saturday and I went down and the gentleman, the car was exactly what I was told, but he wasn't on our parking spot. He had backed out and parked going south right along the river road.
Mhm.
I stopped and he had stuff all over the car and in the car and a little dog and I asked him if anything was wrong and he said, no, just, I used to live in Lake Luzerne and this is a nice place to stop. That was the answer I got, but I told him that people go by and they call us that if there's something wrong. He said, no, there's nothing wrong, but I let him know he couldn't park there, but I think he still does. I
He's
don't
there,
know.
he's there today.
You know. I
His
don't
vehicle's
think
broke
it's-
down sitting there.
Yeah.
It's only moved 20 feet south on the road. He's very much well in that parking spot. And so is all his garbage where his car was 20 feet away. So it's like a mat, it's like a form, something was laying there dead, there's stuff all over the place.
I gotta look, I have no idea.
I mean, if we
Never
put
looked into this.
no overnight parking, that helps us, number
That would be
one.
good, that's
But
it.
if he's on, off the side of the road towards the river, he can move 10 feet. You know, so,
I don't know if
I mean, I hate to change, I mean, people get homeless and they have problems, but there's a lot of other places that they can bother. you know. So,
Is
That's
he
all I
right
got.
right now in one of the places that's gonna get?
He's right on the river road, and I buy him twice a day, he's there,
he's on the roadside now, he's not.
he's on the river
Not
side.
in the parking turnoff.
No, he's in the turnoff.
Oh, he's in the turnoff? During-
Twice a day I see him, I just saw him coming here.
Uh-huh.
He's there, I check on him, I keep an eye on him.
He's right along where the old rope swing was,
Yeah,
right there.
Yep,
We had
he has
received a
not
call
moved.
on it today as well.
He was there last fall too, into the winter, they disappeared. There's been another, I've noticed, I notice everything on that road, there's another guy, he's been at the canoe takeout. But he leaves early, he's there at night and then leaves, so there is someone else. It is, to Dane's point, Councilman Morton's point, there is a problem, and further up into the Lake George Rec area, up in there.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of on the snow machine tree, I mean, this is, okay, I've heard stories of people walking up there and saying, better watch it up there, there's people that camp up there in the summer.
oh, yeah.
So,
But we've been meeting with DEC. Unfortunately, you couldn't be there. But they're willing to work with us on something. They want to start off with the parking signs and raise the price of the.
Yeah.
the
oh, yeah,
fee.
I see DEC, I mean, instead of writing, telling what to do, just stop by and say, 150 feet next to the water, can't camp there. The 150 feet, you're staying overnight, you can't do that, you're within 150 feet of moving water, that's Adirondack APA EC law. I can't, when I hike, I can't set up my stuff. Way out in the middle of the Adirondacks, if they come by, one ranger comes by and goes, hey, you're too close, I gotta pack all my stuff and go 150 feet away that way. I'm the only one within 50 miles. So they should do their part too. They need to step up their game and be environmental police and go down there and tell them
Met with them a couple of times.
they need to step up their game.
And
So he's still there and he's still.
them that work with us, we gotta work with them.
Yep.
Do
Both
we
sides.
have any signage saying they can't be 150 feet from the water?
Yeah, state, well, that's state law. State would have to put that up. That's in every appendix, every hiking appendix, every rule book. It's very well known. If you're not a hiker, you wouldn't know that.
I'm not a hiker, so I don't know about it.
Well, when they stop telling you once you move. They'll move or then you get ticketed.
That problem, if we had a sign there,
Again, it's DEC law. We have to put, according to DEC law, and you have to put out the whole law. You have to do something. I think we could check on it. I would say no overnight parking, or that covers, because you're covering it, no camping. I mean, it's a nice way of saying. And then we work with DEC and say, can we get you guys to squeeze them more? You see him, don't say, well, he's home, get him out of there. Every day, you're here again. I'm coming back tonight. DC goes up there 10:30 in the morning. And 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right by my house. I live right there. I see him go by. Twice a day they drive by there. So again, there is some accountability by the state. They need to do their job.
I wonder if those people that we've been meeting would even know that.
They know. They know.
It certainly hasn't come up. We've had.
It won't come up.
meetings.
It won't come up.
We're aware of the homelessness.
No, I wonder if they're aware of the law Tim's talking.
But they're very
Oh, yeah.
aware of the law. They told me one time,
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
it's,
telling you, it's
he's right.
state law.
He's right. They just had to enforce it. I think the voicemail that I got after I called the DEC officer, they were trying to give them a little feedback once they actually
Mhm.
got out there.
I get it. No one wants to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
That goes on a lot. I mean, you pick your battles where you can fight them. But now you have, this is an issue. Now it's a health issue. He's got garbage on the ground. It's getting disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, his cars is blue with garbage coming out since last year. I saw him. He's got a dog too. I don't know what's going on with the dog. But
with the chief.
Bad precedent.
yeah. Again, he's got the freedom to live his life the way he wants to, but he has to follow the law like everybody else.
That's all I had.
Anybody else have anything?
You did order the no littering signs, right?
I called today, I have already 20 no parking signs ordered from last week.
And how about the littering signs?
I called today and didn't get an answer back yet. So I'll check it tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get 3 to 5 of them and put them around there a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
And they do have the fee attached to that also, right, on the no littering signs?
No, we didn't put a fee, we didn't put the fee on. I don't think they printed them yet, or got them yet. I could call them all.
Yeah.
You wanna put this, what do you got, 250?
It's 250.
250 is what the town ordinance is for littering right now.
Littering's really been a big thing lately.
So huge.
And oh, no.
Oh, the
And we met a bunch of nice young ladies that are rangers and said they'd love to give out tickets, raise the price.
Oh, hey, Ron, not to interrupt you, but the kitty litter bags on River Road, I think I have a lead.
Oh, yeah?
A little mouse in my ear. Saw the said culprit in action. It makes sense now. I kind of thought it was, but I might have a conversation with myself. Oh, yeah, I know. I'll go visit him.
All right, you got anything?
No.
We're gonna just have executive sessions.
We need a motion to go into executive session
You
I make a
know,
motion
with no further business but to adjourn.
with no further business but to adjourn. So help me God.
All right, who seconded that?
I
I'll
do.
second.
Mr. Niles second.
All in favor?
Right?
Okay.
Opposed? Hearing none carried.
All right, we're in executive session.